I'm returning to the case of Mr. Atiq Malik, who has, I'm glad to say, recently been sacked from the Police Advisory Committee on, well, Muslim liaison, I suppose, or something. And one of the comments under my video was as follows. Why do the police need any advisory bodies? They should know the law and act on it, which is an excellent question, and I have the answer. It's because there aren't police on the beat anymore, and they think that this sort of remote control will tell them what the people on the street think, when in fact what it tells them is what people like Mr. Malik think, which might not be the same thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure it isn't. And I'm going to go into that. I'm granniopteryx. So, yes, this comment was, why do the police need any advisory bodies? They should know the law and act on it. And if you notice from many of the videos which keep getting uploaded to YouTube, not from me, from just ordinary citizens who've been harassed by the police or that sort of thing, it does appear that the police don't know the law. And they make stuff up as they go along. And then later on, they're found to be wrong. But then it's too late. Somebody's gone through a good deal of difficulty and aggravation and often fear and discomfort. And then the police say, oh, sorry, we got that wrong. And then they let him go. But the process is the punishment at that point, being carted off by the police or having your electrical equipment, your computers taken by the police and kept for weeks for no real reason. That's a punishment. And they get away with it. And they arrest people saying that they're arresting them for a particular offence that doesn't exist. This happens quite a lot. There was one example which I saw, I'm sorry, I've just thought of it right now, of a kid who was riding an electric bike up and down the road, and apparently he could legally, but then these heavy guys came along and told him he couldn't, started quoting non-existent laws at him. I don't know how that one turned out, but just a minute, I'm going to sneeze. Well, according to my mother, when you sneeze, you're telling the truth, so I'm obviously telling the truth. Look, that makes about as much sense as what this guy is saying. I'm going to play the video again. It was in my last video, but I'm going to play it again because I'm going to analyse it from a slightly different perspective. You'd think drinking coffee stops you from sneezing. And by the way, I noticed that my sweater appears to be shimmering. I don't think I've been trying to do something about it, but I'm not talking about the sequins here. I'm talking about the blue colour, which obviously the camera finds a little difficult to deal with. I'm sorry about that. I'm not speaking from the space age. It's quite a dark blue as well, although you can't tell it from this. Let's get on with Mr. Malik, should we? Here we are. Right, let's just start with that. I don't know what he was shouting. It sounded like two, but I'm sure it wasn't two. And so people were shouting back. That's call and response. Call and response is a way of getting a crowd involved. It very famously was used by the pop group Queen when they did that clap clap thing. That's a benign use of call and response. This one I would not call benign, although it certainly brought the crowd into attention and listening. I mean, you can be stupid and clever at the same time. Now, the quality of this man's mind, speaking as a teacher who has experience, well, some sort of experience, hearing how people talk and assessing their ability to grasp certain concepts. Can't say I get it right every time. But if I'd see if I'd have seen this guy talking, I would not have assumed that he was of particularly high intelligence. But that call he made, that was, that was a clever technique. So he's a bit of a mixture here. Let's carry on.
Out there, people? What is actually happening?
Now, what was he saying there? He was saying, what's going on out there, people? What is actually happening? Or something like that. And I was slightly trying to mimic the way he was talking, because I was trying to get to point out to you the way he was punching at the words. But he was also trying to gather his thoughts while he was saying that. Those are empty phrases, and he was just trying to gather his thoughts, because the original call and what he was going to say, he hadn't actually planned the transition, so he's using that.
You go on BBC, ITV, do we see any of this? Do we see any of this? No, we don't.
And I can tell him exactly why. And I'm interrupting myself to remind you to click like. Also, to check out all the other links in the description, which give the other platforms I put my videos up on, just in case. You never know when you might need them. And there are links to donation sites as well. I'm always very grateful for donations, but really the best thing you can do for this video is to click like, and for my channel to click subscribe, and to remember to click, if you're on YouTube, to click the notification button so you're always informed about new videos. Okay, back to Mr. Malik.
You go on BBC, ITV, do we see any of this? Do we see any of this? No, we don't.
And I can tell him exactly why we don't, because that is just downright embarrassing. It is so embarrassing to see a man shouting like this, like a teenager. I mean, he's acting like a teenager with a deep voice. And he thinks that what he has to say is worthy of attention, whereas, speaking as somebody who has worked in the media, I would say if I saw that, somebody said, should we put this up on the news? And I'd go, no, stay away from that, because it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to see somebody at such a low level. And of course, if you're working in BBC, you don't want to show Muslims at this sort of level. It's embarrassing. It spoils your view of the world as one of complete equality for everyone. This guy is not equal to everyone. He is considerably less intelligent than everyone, but even worse, he's considerably more filled with fury and hate. And that doesn't put him on the same level as a lot of other people, I'm afraid. And no media in the world is going to put this up in any other context than look at this person, how terrible he is. And they don't want to show that sort of thing. He should be very glad that the media aren't putting up his stuff. But he is so entitled and so sure of himself, he doesn't know why.
You know, you watch Sky News, do we see this? No. Even on social media, what we're seeing is with posts are going up on Insta, LinkedIn, Facebook, they're getting deleted.
Well, you know what? My stuff gets deleted. A lot of the people who make comments on my videos, same as diametrically the opposite of this guy. And I might say, usually considerably more reasoned and intelligent, that gets deleted as well. So I'm afraid being deleted has nothing to do with Zionists, which is what he's going to say next.
What's going on?
Oh, there he is. Oh, that's that. What's going on? What's going on? Again, he's got to collect his thoughts.
There's global censorship by the Zionists.
Yeah, so he's talking about global censorship, but he's saying global censorship, but he's talking about himself. He regards himself as being of global significance. He isn't of global significance, but he talks big. and possibly very polite to the police. So, that's why they put him on their, advisory bodies. By the way, I saw... Now, where is it? This is UC Santa Barbara Police Department, Police Advisory Board. And these are on the police advice. This is in America, so it's not just a British problem. Professor of Sociology, Black Studies, student representative, English major, Dean of Student Life, whatever that is, Intercollegiate Athletics, Contracts and Grants Manager, Faculty Equiter Advisor. I mean, look at the people who are on their advisory board. Oh, there's a PhD candidate in history there. Here's another guy, Equity and Inclusion. Professor Materials, Professor Art, Comparative Literature. Oh, Chief of Police. Well, we've got a police officer in there at last. And Staff Support, Centre for Black Studies Research. So that's the Police Advisory Board. Well, I suppose if they're paid, it's a nice little living, but or maybe it just strokes their ego. But this is the same problem, and that's in Santa Barbara. It stretches, at least we know, from London to Santa Barbara, and probably all points in between, and I should think a good deal of points to the east as well. All right, in Europe. Let's carry on with Mr. Malik.
Global censorship to silence us.
That guy silenced. And look at all those people in Trafalgar Square and in front of Downing Street and all the rest of it. And they reckon they're being silenced. This is a narcissistic self-entitlement. I don't know all the psychology terms anymore. They've all changed since I was at university.
Where us standing here today is so important.
So, did you hear that? I'm going to replay that because we're standing here today. It's so important. And there's all this sense, basically, you get the feeling he's talking about himself the whole time.
Standing here today is so important.
And there's this sing-song. He's not just talking to them. He's singing to them. He's doing a Homeric epic here, although maybe Homer isn't the right person to talk about.
The message we're sending out is that we will not be silenced.
Well, no. It doesn't look like you will be silenced. It's as if somebody is actually trying to silence you.
Silence! We will not be silenced! We will not be silenced!
You see this in music halls as well. You know, the standard music hall thing is when you get the singer on there and then he or she gets the audience to sing parts of the song. They feel like they've become part of the performance. Well, they have become part of the performance. Well, that's exactly what he's doing. He is not actually saying anything. He's making a lot of assertions, none of which can really hold up to any serious investigation. But he's saying these things and then he's getting people to repeat them, and then that's going to drive the message into their heads. They will not be silenced.
We will not be silenced. There is no justice.
Oh, they've got the right response there, haven't they? There is no justice, just us. There is plenty of justice. And indeed, there's plenty of injustice. I keep talking about the girls in Rotherham. That is world-class injustice, isn't it?
There is no justice. There is no justice. From the river to...
So there we've got there is no justice, just us. There is no justice, just us. And then he starts with another slogan. Here's the other one.
From the river to the sea.
Well, it will be when the Israelis have finished with Hamas, because that's what's causing a lot of trouble, at least in Gaza. But I did think it was well worth going into what the way this guy was delivering his speech. He has a particular sort of delivery which I do associate with people of Pakistani heritage. There's a sort of slogan, a repeating type of cut and paste conversation that seems to have been culturally formed among anybody brought up in a Pakistani background. Of course, that doesn't work for all. It's not that every single Pakistani in the United Kingdom has this sort of cut and paste mind. Just before anyone starts, I have no intention of saying that. But there is a substantial chunk of people of Pakistani heritage who do think in that way. And that's really bad for Britain, actually. I'm not saying they're the only ones either, but they do have a particular tendency to this. And this call and response sloganeering, which, I find that so depressing. OK, well, I'll just give you a couple more comments that I got, because this fellow was chosen by the police to chair their advisory committee to do with what to do about the demonstrations that are arising out of the conflict in the Middle East. And he is about as dependable for a chair of such a committee as Harold Shipman would be for geriatric care, Jimmy Savile would be for children's care, Fred West would be for accommodation, Rolf Harris would be for entertainment, and Martin Bashir would be for honesty in journalism. And with that, I'll say goodbye till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.